the Emily Morgan Hotel. Before it was a hotel, before it had guests, chandeliers, or polished floors, this building was a place where people came to suffer quietly, to be cut open, to be studied, to be forgotten. They say the Emily Morgan Hotel is haunted, but that word is too simple, because what remains here was never allowed to leave, and it does not want to be seen. It wants to be used. The Emily Morgan Hotel stands directly across from the Alamo. Tourists photograph it every day. They admire its Gothic Revival architecture, the gargoyles, the stonework, the towering windows. What they don't know is what the building used to be. Before luxury suites, before room service, it was the medical arts building. Doctors, surgeons, dentists, psychiatric offices. And in the early 1900s, medicine was not gentle. There was no consent the way we understand it today. Patients didn't always leave, and some were never meant to. Officially, the building was not a hospital. That distinction mattered, because hospitals had regulations. This building did not. Procedures were performed here that never appeared in records, experiments disguised as treatment, autopsies conducted quietly, bodies transferred through back stairwells at night. And somewhere inside those walls, something learned what it meant to be taken apart. Emily Morgan was a real woman, a Texan folk figure, a woman whose identity was reduced to legend. Some say she distracted Santa Anna's troops before the Battle of the Alamo. Others say she never existed at all. But her name became a symbol, a woman remembered without certainty, a story without a body, and that mattered more than anyone realized. Hotel staff avoid assigning one specific room unless the hotel is full. Guests complain about the closet, not because it's small, but because it's locked. From the inside, no latch, no handle, just pressure. As if someone is standing against the door, leaning quietly, waiting. In 2016, a traveling nurse named Clara Whitmore checked into the Emily Morgan Hotel. She liked old buildings. She liked history. She requested a room facing the Alamo. She got the locked closet room. The first night, Clara slept poorly. She dreamed of white walls, bright lights, hands holding her down. When she woke up, her arms ached, as if they had been restrained. By the second morning, Clara noticed bruises, perfectly symmetrical, wrists, ankles. She assumed stress, exhaustion. But that night, she heard something new. Metal, soft clinking, like surgical tools being arranged, inside the closet. The bathroom mirror in Clara's room had an odd distortion. When she stood still, her reflection looked normal. But when she moved, her reflection lagged behind, just slightly, enough to notice, enough to feel wrong. One night, she raised her hand. Her reflection didn't. Clara began having dreams that didn't end. She would wake up standing, cold, barefoot, facing the closet. Her mind blank, her body responding to something else. Every time, she felt the same sensation, like someone was borrowing her. On the fourth night, Clara finally opened the closet. Inside was nothing. No shelves, no dust, just a smooth interior wall and a smell. Sterile, chemical, like antiseptic and old blood. When Clara turned around, someone was standing behind her. A woman, tall, thin, wearing what looked like an old hospital gown. Her face was unfinished, no features, just skin pulled tight where a face should be. The woman didn't move, didn't speak. But Clara understood, not with words, with sensation. The woman had been here too long. She had been cut open, examined, written about, and then discarded. No burial, no name. Just a body that stopped being useful. Now she needed one that was. Security cameras recorded Clara leaving her room at 3:17 a.m., walking calmly down the hallway, barefoot, eyes unfocused. She entered a restricted stairwell. The camera glitched. She never appeared again. Housekeeping entered the room later that morning. The bed was untouched. The bathroom mirror was shattered from the inside, and written on the wall in something dark. Not blood, not ink, but pressure, indented into the paint. She fits. 2 days later, a woman was found in the building's sub-basement. No ID, no fingerprints, no dental records. Her face was damaged beyond recognition. Medical examiners noted something impossible. Her organs showed signs of procedures performed decades ago, with modern healing, as if two bodies had shared the same space. Paranormal investigators believe the entity isn't a ghost. It's a residual consciousness formed from prolonged suffering, a mind trained to exist only during procedures, to wake only when examined. It doesn't haunt rooms, it occupies people, borrowing bodies the way doctors once borrowed hers. Guests still report pressure on their chests, hands on their wrists, dreams of bright lights and cold voices. Some wake up knowing medical terminology they never studied. Some wake up missing time, and some check out perfectly fine, but never feel like themselves again. If you ever stay at the Emily Morgan Hotel and you wake up unable to remember your dreams, check your arms, check your reflection, and if the closet door feels warm, do not open it, because some patients were never discharged, and one of them is still practicing. Some buildings remember pain. Some pain remembers you. The Menger Hotel. The Menger Hotel has never burned down. It has never collapsed. It has never been abandoned. It has stood beside the Alamo since the 1800s, watching wars, executions, and celebrations pass like changing weather. And yet, guests complain that something inside the hotel never rests. Not a ghost that screams, not footsteps in hallways, but something far worse, something that watches you all night long, without blinking. Because at the Menger Hotel, there is a guest who never sleeps and that does not have a face. The Menger Hotel opened in 1859. It wasn't just a place to stay. It was a meeting place. Soldiers, politicians, generals. The hotel bar became legendary. Teddy Roosevelt recruited the Rough Riders here. Men drank, planned, argued, and disappeared into history. But the hotel itself never forgot them. It watched, and it learned something important. People come here when they are between lives, before battle, after loss, during uncertainty. That makes them easy to notice. The oldest rooms of the Menger are no longer advertised. They exist beneath layers of renovation. Narrow hallways, low ceilings, doors that don't quite close. Staff members report cold spots that don't move, not drafts, not air conditioning, just areas where warmth refuses to stay. Guests who sleep there often wake exhausted, not from nightmares, from lack of rest, as if sleep avoided them. The earliest written complaint dates back to 1872. A guest reported waking in the night and seeing a man seated in a chair beside the bed. He wasn't threatening. He wasn't moving. He was simply watching. The guest described him as unfinished. No clear features, just the outline of a person where one should not be. When the guest spoke, the man vanished. The guest checked out before dawn. Over the decades, reports repeated. Different rooms, different guests, same description. A man seated nearby. Still, patient, never interacting. never leaving footprints, always present during moments when the guest should be asleep, and always gone by morning. The staff began calling it the Watcher. In 1918, a wounded soldier named Thomas Hale stayed at the Munger while awaiting reassignment. He refused to sleep in the bed. Instead, he sat upright in a chair all night. When asked why, he answered simply, "Because he takes the bed." Thomas was found dead 3 days later. No wounds, no signs of struggle. His eyes were open, bloodshot, as if he hadn't slept at all. Doctors could not determine the cause of death. They noted extreme exhaustion, as if Thomas had been awake for weeks. His heart had simply stopped. But the strangest detail was in the hotel log. On the night Thomas died, the clerk noted, "Guest requested an extra chair, said someone else needed the bed." Historians believe the Menger Hotel became a refuge during times of fear. Men waiting for battle, men returning broken, men unable to rest. Sleep is when the mind releases control. And something in the hotel learned to exist only then. Not alive, not dead, but alert, always alert. In 2019, a travel photographer named Evan Miller checked into the Menger. He wanted atmosphere, history, a story. He got room 316, one of the older rooms. The first night, Evan woke at exactly 2:47 a.m. Wide awake. No fear, no noise, just the sensation of being observed. He opened his eyes and saw a man sitting in the chair. Evan later described the figure as impossible to remember whenever he tried to recall details. His mind slid away, like trying to remember a dream. The only consistent detail was the face, or rather, the lack of one. Where eyes should have been, there was smoothness, not darkness, not shadow, just absence. Over the next 3 nights, Evan noticed a pattern. The Watcher never moved, never blinked, never spoke. But it followed rules. It only appeared when Evan lay down. It only vanished when Evan stood up. And it never approached. It waited. Evan stopped sleeping. Coffee stopped helping. His hands shook. His thoughts slowed. He began hearing breathing that wasn't his own. Slow, measured, like someone conserving energy. When Evan tried to photograph the room at night, the camera captured nothing, but his reflection in the mirror grew worse, blurred, undefined. Housekeeping reported Evan's room smelled stale, not unclean, unused, as if no one had been there. Despite Evan being present, the chair beside the bed was always warm, even when he hadn't sat in it. On the 5th night, Evan finally spoke. He asked the figure, "What do you want?" The response didn't come as words. It came as understanding. The Watcher had never slept. It had never been allowed to. It existed only to observe, to stay alert while others rested. But now, it was tired, and it needed someone else to take over. Security footage shows Evan leaving his room at 3:12 a.m. He walked calmly, eyes open, posture perfect. Too perfect. He sat in the lobby chair and didn't move. Staff assumed he was waiting for a ride. By morning, he was still there, unblinking, alive, but wrong. Evan Miller never checked out. He never returned home. His family reported him missing, but hotel staff insisted he was still there. Because sometimes, late at night, a man sits in the lobby chair, watching the doors, never sleeping, never moving. Guests now report seeing 2 figures, one seated near beds, one in public spaces. Neither moves, neither sleeps, and both seem incomplete, as if the role is being learned. The Menger Hotel has survived wars, pandemics, and time itself, because something inside it is always awake, always alert, always ready. It doesn't haunt the hotel, it maintains it. watching guests the way soldiers once watched battlefields, waiting. If you ever stay at the Menger Hotel and you wake in the night unable to sleep, do not open your eyes immediately. Do not check the chair beside the bed, because if you acknowledge the watcher, it may decide you are rested enough to take its place. And once you do, you will never sleep again. Some places never rest. Some guests never leave. The Stanley Hotel. The Stanley Hotel sits above the world, high in the Colorado mountains, surrounded by trees that don't move when the wind stops, cut off from everything when night falls. People say it inspired great horror stories, but that's not entirely true. The Stanley Hotel doesn't inspire fear, it observes it, and when the building realizes you're afraid of your own thoughts, it begins watching back. The Stanley Hotel opened in 1909. Luxury, fresh mountain air, distance from society. That distance was the point. Guests came here to recover, to escape, to think. But isolation changes people. When there are no city sounds, no crowds, no distractions, the mind fills the silence. And the Stanley learned how to listen. Guests often complain about the same thing. Not noises, not screams, but silence so deep, it becomes uncomfortable. A silence that feels intentional, as if the hotel is holding its breath. People report waking suddenly at night, heart racing, with no idea why, no nightmare, no sound. Just the certainty that something is aware of them. Hotel blueprints show a room that shouldn't exist. Not an extra room, a wrong one. Its angles don't line up. The corners don't meet correctly. Standing inside it feels disorienting, like the room wasn't finished. Staff refer to it only as the watching room. In 2014, a behavioral psychology graduate student named Lucas Avery checked into the Stanley Hotel. His research focused on fear response in isolation. He wanted to stay alone, no tours, no guides, no distractions. He requested the quietest room available and was unknowingly given the watching room. Lucas noticed it immediately. The mirror didn't feel right. Not broken, not warped, just attentive. When Lucas moved, his reflection followed perfectly. Too perfectly. No lag, no distortion, like it was paying close attention. That night, Lucas slept poorly. He dreamed of standing still while something studied him. Lucas kept a notebook, scientific observations, controlled environment, no emotional language. But by the second night, his handwriting changed, sharper, pressed harder into the paper. One sentence repeated across several pages. "It watches when I stop watching myself." Lucas didn't remember writing it. At 2:22 a.m., Lucas woke up. Not frightened, alert. Someone was standing near the window, tall, still, facing outward. The figure had no visible features, just the outline of a person made of darkness. When Lucas sat up, the figure turned slightly, and Lucas realized something terrifying. It didn't have a face. Over the next 2 nights, patterns emerged. The figure only appeared when Lucas stopped thinking, when his mind relaxed, when his thoughts drifted. Meditation triggered it, sleep triggered it, fear didn't. The more calm Lucas became, the clearer the figure appeared. Historical records show something strange. Guests who reported intense fear often left unharmed. Guests who reported peace did not. The Stanley Hotel wasn't feeding on terror, it was feeding on surrender. Moments when the mind lets go. Moments when identity loosens. Lucas described the entity as incomplete. Not hostile, not aggressive, curious. It studied posture, breathing, eye movement, as if learning how to be human, but it never copied faces, only presence. On the fourth night, Lucas noticed something wrong. The room no longer had corners. The walls curved subtly inward. Distances felt inconsistent. The room felt smaller, not physically, perceptually, like it was focusing. Lucas finally understood. The entity wasn't haunting the room. The room was incubating it. The Stanley had learned how to hold something unfinished, something created by imagination, fed by attention, given shape by observation. The entity needed one thing to complete itself: a stable identity. The figure stood closer now. Lucas felt his thoughts slowing. Not fear, relief, like being allowed to stop trying. The understanding arrived gently. If Lucas stayed, the entity would learn how to be him, and Lucas wouldn't need to think anymore. Cameras recorded Lucas entering his room at 11:03 p.m. They never recorded him leaving, but they did record something else. At 4:11 a.m., the hallway camera glitched. A figure stepped out of the watching room. Its walk was uncertain. Learning, practicing, housekeeping later found Lucas's notebook. The last entry was written calmly, neatly. No pressure. It doesn't need my fear. It needs my stillness. I think I'm done thinking now. Weeks later, guests reported a man standing quietly in the lobby, staring at the mountains, never blinking, never speaking. Staff assumed he was a guest enjoying the view, until they realized he never checked in. And when approached, his face could not be described afterward. The Stanley Hotel has always been a place for minds to wander, for thoughts to echo, for imagination to roam freely. And sometimes, imagination doesn't want to leave. Sometimes it wants to stay, to observe, to learn, to become. If you ever stay at the Stanley Hotel and you feel strangely calm, strangely quiet inside your own thoughts, do not relax completely. Do not let your mind go still, because something there is listening for silence. And when it hears it, it will finally know who to be. Some places inspire stories. Others learn from them.